Can you imagine never having to file state income tax again? I'm Lisa Williams with the A-Team here in Carson City, and again joined with my amazing partner Joshua Priu. This is Life in Carson City. Can you imagine never having to file state income tax again? Nevada is one of 9 states with no state income tax. This means zero tax on wages, salaries, bonuses, commissions, freelance income, and many more. You keep more of every paycheck in your pocket. This is especially powerful if you're coming from high income tax states like California. Real savings for workers.
Yep, I'm Joshua Priu, and yeah, this is a big deal, right? We talked about this in some of our other videos, but no state income tax is huge, and it's one of not necessarily one of the reasons why I chose to live in Nevada, but it is a huge bonus. And of course, I talk to you guys always about how I'm from California originally. Now, I moved to Nevada in 2009, but I lived in California up until I was about 30 years old, and so pretty used to paying the California state taxes. But for the last 16 years, I haven't, and I imagine California has probably gone up a little bit. But right now, my understanding is California state income taxes can be as much as 13.3%. So someone making $75,000 a year in California, and that's probably like poverty level, is going to be paying though like $3,500 to $4,000 per year in state income tax. And that's crazy. I mean, if I had an extra $4,000 a year, it'd be wonderful. So the same person here, obviously zero. They're not paying anything. And just kind of going up that income ladder. You make $100,000, that's like $5,000 to $6,000 a year. If you make $200,000 a year, you could be saving as much as $20,000 a year. So that's huge, huge. Now, obviously, California is the unique one. I think they're probably one of the highest tax rates in the world. Maybe New York's one of them. I don't know at all, but listen to this. In Oregon, they're almost 10% state income tax. In Idaho, up to 6%. Utah's pretty relatively low. That's about 4.5%. And Arizona is anywhere from 2.5% to 4.5%. So one way or another, if you're not in those lucky 9 states like Nevada, you are paying state income tax, and you're going to save a ton when you move here.
So let's talk about retirement benefits. That's huge for our Carson City demographic. Nevada does not tax Social Security or retirement benefits. There's no state tax on pension income or distributions from your retirement accounts. That means 401k withdrawals, zero state tax. IRA distributions, zero state tax. This is massive for retirees, and we have a very large retiree community here in this area. This could save thousands per year in retirement. For example, $60,000 in retirement income could save $3,000 to $5,000 in a year versus California. What's the trade-off? Well, there is sales tax. Carson City's sales tax rate is 7.6%. This is higher than some states, but lower than California. You pay tax on purchases, but not on services, rent, or mortgage payments. So most people overall still come out ahead.
Yeah, so we're talking about some of the trade-offs, right? Where the big one obviously is not paying sales tax, but then you might have to pay a little bit more on some other things. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was property tax. For the most part, property tax here is relatively low. At least I think so. And of course, I'm comparing to California. I always do, right? And that's where most people are coming to Nevada from, and it's where I'm from, so it just makes sense. But we're not the lowest property tax. So like on average, property taxes in Carson City is somewhere around like 0.6%. And the way we look at property taxes is twofold. So it's assessed land value, and then based on the property value at the time of construction. So if you have a 20-year-old house versus a brand new house, they could be the same exact house, and the property tax on that 20-year-old house is a lot less because it's assessed at the rate, or sorry, at the value at the time. But we're not the lowest by any means in the country. And so just kind of take that with a grain of salt. We're not paying state income tax, but at the same time, Our property taxes are generally low, but we're not the best out there. So when we look at the numbers in Carson City, if you had a $500,000 home, it's roughly like $2,600 a year. But if it's newer, up to $4,000 a year. So definitely cheaper than California. And then you combine that with your state income tax, and you're saving a whole heck of a lot of money as well. Usually a few $1,000s, depending on the property that you have, in property tax plus the income tax. So it's just even more money in your pocket. A couple other considerations as well is modified business tax on certain businesses, but most small business are exempt. So if you want to open a small business, you're like me, a realtor who has, have a business license here in Carson City. I don't have to worry about the modified business tax. Gaming and mining taxes, those things are huge, right? And that's a lot of the reason why the state of Nevada has so much money. And the reason why we don't have to put out more money out of our pockets is because of gaming and mining. Those do not affect your average resident around here. And that's just more money in the coffers, which makes our state fairly wealthy. And then, of course, there's no estate tax or inheritance tax. And, just as an example, I have a buyer in Washington State who's been pretty successful, and he's getting older. And so he is looking to buy a home here and spend at least half of his time or more in Nevada, so that when he finally passes away, that his kids don't get taxed on the inheritance that he's going to give them, which could be a significant amount of money. So Nevada, none of that. A lot of ways also down the road to save some money.
And who do you think benefits the most? You got it. High income earners. The more you make, the more you save. Self-employed folks that run their own business, business owners, executives, they see massive savings. And there's also no progressive tax. That means if you get a raise at your job, it's not taxed at a higher rate. And also, my favorite part, retirees also benefit hugely. Living on a fixed income with no state tax bite stretches your retirement savings even further. Remember, no Social Security tax, and no pension tax, and no 401k, all untaxed. Remote workers also benefit from our tax situation here in Carson City or in Nevada, where they keep 100% of their income minus just the federal income tax. This is very popular for companies from California. It was very popular during COVID, when people were moving and working remotely. Also, families, I love this. More money for the children, education, and activities. They keep more of the family's money in their own pocket to spend on the family. Every dollar of both spouses' income keeps more in the household budget. And that's just great for families all around and for the children.
All right, let's do some real world examples here now. Let's break it down to those dollars, dollars and cents on a monthly basis. So let's go with that typical, young professional making about $80,000 a year. That's $4,200 in California state income tax. So here in Nevada, you will have an extra $350 a month. Now it's huge. That's your car payment, or you're putting away some money for savings, or that's your, going out money. If you were a dual income family, let's say you're making $150,000 a year as a dual income, that's $9,000 in state income tax that you're paying over in California. $750 a month. So that's your preschool payment or a portion of your mortgage, or you could be putting that money away into investments, put that into your 401k. Think about a retiree now, let's say with a pension, Social Security, 401k, you're bringing in about $70,000 a year. That's $3,500 in state income tax. And so monthly, that's about $290 a month. And again, that's going into your healthcare expenses, or maybe you're scrolling that away for some scrolling that away for some travel expenses. Of course, you want to dote on your grandkids. That's a nice little extra hunk of money. So hopefully those real world examples have been helpful.
So we've given you a lot of information, but let us tell you where people get wrong information. Myth number one, Well, Nevada makes up for it with other taxes. The reality is, the total tax burden is still lower for most people. Sales tax only applies to goods and services you buy, not on housing or services. Myth number two, it's only good for rich people. That's not true either. The reality is it benefits everyone who has an income. Even a $50,000 salary, you save $1,500 to $2,000 in taxes versus California. So that part's not true either. So myth number three, well, you'll lose important services. But the reality is Nevada still has great schools, great roads, police and fire departments, and they're state funded all through sales tax, gaming revenue, and tourism taxes. So be careful for the myths that are out there. Uh, we run just fine on the taxes we collect. Our taxes are just significantly lower.
All right, so if you're thinking about moving here and it's about time to find out what it's like not to pay state income tax, let's talk about some practical tips. So you have to establish Nevada residency. That's going to be a big one. And of course, you have to establish domicile. So you're going to have a permanent, residence. And that's important. You don't have to necessarily buy something, but you do have to show that you live in a home. You're paying, utilities, that kind of thing. So you will need to get a Nevada's driver's license. You should register to vote here. So that's going to be the big one as far as, establishing your residency is kind of really, I am voting in this state. I have my driver's license in the state. I live in the state. And so I should get the tax benefits of the state, right? And then, of course, update your address with everything, your employers, your banks, the IRS. I mean, everybody needs to know that you moved here. So, and it's important for higher earners leaving California. California is aggressive about claiming you still owe taxes. So just make sure you get this all set up and make sure everybody that you're connected to knows that you're now in Nevada. So just to throw this out there, not to bring it down a notch, but you still have to worry about federal. Okay, so you're going to still pay federal income tax just like you did before. Okay, and Social Security and Medicare taxes still apply. Of course, that's under the federal stuff. This whole video is purely about state income tax. Okay, so let's go ahead and just talk about the bottom line. Right. So for most people, no state income tax means real serious savings. That's a lot of money. I was talking about that young couple or whatever at $150,000 a year income. That's not unusual to make that amount. To save $750 a month, it's a lot of money to me. Obviously, I live here, so I'm experiencing it, but I can't imagine paying that much money to the government. And then obviously more money in your pocket. And this is huge for retirees, high earners. That's a big one. We didn't really get into it too much, but I mean, if you're making a real significant income, think about the savings that you'd have here in the state of Nevada. And even with a slightly higher sales tax, most people do come out ahead. So it's one of the top reasons people move to Nevada from California, Oregon, and other high, state tax states. Sorry. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I know most of you probably knew a little bit about that, but we wanted to break it down a little bit. And again, I'm Joshua Priyu, and my partner is Lisa Williams, and we are the A-Team Nevada, and this is Life in Carson City, and we love that you're watching these videos. We're getting more and more views, we're getting more subscribers, but we would love for you to subscribe. So go down to the bottom, click subscribe. Down, once you do all that, you'll be able to see all of our contact information. So if you want to meet, you want to talk on the phone, you want to email us, whatever you want to do, send us a text. All of our contact information is right there. You can reach out to me or to Lisa, and go ahead and make comments. We love to see all that stuff. So stay in touch with us. Keep watching. We're here every week, and we'll see you next week.